Hello and welcome into another edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hickson. I'm your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI and your host of this daily Sun Devils Insider Podcast. And we are roughly a day and a half or so, give or take, out from Arizona State men's basketball, taking on the TCU Horned Frogs on the road in what will definitively be the make or break point of this 2025-2026 season. At roughly the same time, the women's basketball program will be taking on BYU in another absolutely consequential game, particularly as far as there's tenuous hold on an NCAA tournament spot is concerned. The Sun Devils come into this week roughly considered to be among the last four in at the moment, but there's no doubt that they're at the very center of the tournament bubble. A win over BYU would give them their 23rd victory of the season, and it would be very, very difficult to leave a 23-win team from the Big 12 out of the tournament. That would be extremely controversial. So we will be paying attention to that game without a shadow of a doubt. Uh, I believe that game tips off at about 6:30. As for the men's basketball game, that game is set to tip off at 7 p.m. And it's not hyperbole to say that their season does hinge on this matchup. The Sun Devils come into this game with a 14-13 record. Uh, the loss to Baylor, definitely a damaging loss. This is another loss that gets added to that long list of what ifs. Um, what if they had won one of those two Colorado games? What if they hadn't given up the lead late in the Oregon State game and lost that game? That is their lone bad loss of the season. What if they were able to hold on and take down UCF on the road, which would have been another quad one victory? There are so many what ifs on this Arizona State season. If they had just won three or four of those games, they would be looking in great shape to make the tournament, but now it's an uphill climb. And this is the game where it makes or breaks things. If they win this game and if they take down Utah, there might be a path to get back into the bubble conversation, possibly even on the right side of the bubble. I mean, if you look at their victories, they took down Hawaii in a true road game. They took down Texas in a neutral site game. They took down Oklahoma in a neutral site game. They defeated Santa Clara in a neutral site game. They defeated Oklahoma State. They defeated Texas Tech. So they have a bunch of wins that would be at least considered a lukewarm, decent victory, if not a good victory. They have the potential to win seven or so games in the Big 12, a very difficult conference, and being part of the Big 12 is probably one of the reasons why they'd have an outside shot of making the tournament with 17 wins or so. I still think the benchmark is around 18 or 19 wins. So a win Tuesday night, a win against Utah on Saturday, and then win one of the last two regular season games against Kansas or Iowa State. You're at 17 wins. Then you win one game in the Big 12 tournament. I think that you would be in at that point. Maybe win two games just to be safe, but there's still a clear path for Arizona State. It's just the path is very one track coded right now. There's really only one way they can climb out of this. And if they lose to TCU, it's all over. I do not see a path for them to uh, make it with that loss. Even if they beat Utah, that would mean they would probably have to beat both Kansas and Iowa State and win a conference tournament game. And I'd probably give that a 2% chance of happening. So we've discussed this quite a bit. The season really hinges on this game. And let's get into talking about some of the TCU players to watch, uh, talking about the kind of season that the Horned Frogs have had and what makes this a potential favorable matchup for the Sun Devils. So TCU's had a very interesting season, that is to say the least. They started out the season with some very interesting results. I mean, they lost to University of New Orleans in their very first game of the season. That is a very bad loss because New Orleans is just 13 and 15 on the season. So that is a very big stain on their resume this season. They nearly beat Michigan, who is a top three team in the country, uh, early in the season. They took down Florida, probably a top four seed in the NCAA tournament at this point. They took down Wisconsin, a likely tournament team, probably. Uh, then a bad loss to Notre Dame. And then you come back and you take down Oklahoma State. You take down Oklahoma State twice. You take down Iowa State. You take down Baylor twice. So you have a lot of quality wins in there, but some very head-scratching losses as well. And TCU is really a tough code to crack overall this season. Just based off of what I said, there's a lot to unpack from that. And um, I guess the best way you can say I guess the best form you can put it in as far as the identity of this team is that they are very much built on a physical, high ball pressure defensive mentality, uh, accompanied with timely shot making, some great interior presence. David Punch and Xavier Edmonds are both very strong interior presences. They combined to average about 26 points and 13 rebounds per game, 3 blocks per game between the two of them. So, two strong interior players. Then you round it out with several players that average between 7 and 10.5 points per game. That's probably one of the defining pieces of this TCU team in 2025-26. They have 7 rotation players that have either played 26 or 27 games. So they have 7 rotation players that have either played every single game or only missed one game. And then Posey has missed 3 games, but they have 8 rotation players that you can regularly count on. On the flip side for Arizona State, there's been a lot of games where they've only had 7 or 8 players that they can turn to, and they don't have any other options. TCU has a couple of options beyond those 8 rotation players. They're not the deepest team, but being readily available, having time to build that continuity certainly does help TCU. But Arizona State's advantage lies probably in their guard play in this game, if I'm going to be completely honest. I think one of the weakest parts of this TCU team is probably point guard play. Brock Harding is a small guard. He's only 6 feet tall. He's really struggled this season as a shooter, averaging just 8 points per game on 39% from the field and 29% from three-point range and shooting splits. Uh, he does average almost 6 assists per game and almost 2 steals per game, but this is a game where Mo Odom and Anthony Pig Johnson and Noah Mason can really leave their mark in because this TCU team is much more defined by their front court play rather than their backcourt play. And if Arizona State can play a relatively clean brand of basketball in this game, not turn the ball over, make timely shots, play within the structure of the offense, I think Arizona State can come out with a win here. And I think Arizona State is going to come out with a win. Until then, stay tuned for all of your Arizona State updates and news. A player availability report is expected to come out later this evening. And that's all I really have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to another edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast, and I will see you with another episode tomorrow.